We are live, I think.
I still see the red screen.
Now we are live actually. Now it's working for me.
Great.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the session.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the workshop to PySpark. This is Alexandra from PyLadies Stockholm.
Hi, I am Nancy from PyLadies Amsterdam.
And I'm Natalia from bowl.com, I guess, not from PyLadies, but very happy to be here.
Yeah. Yes.
So Natalia, if you want to introduce yourself and go ahead.
Okay. I assumed you guys wanted to say something first,
I
but
think we can start. I just wanted to say this is a collaboration between PyLadies Stockholm and PyLadies Amsterdam. And thank you, Nancy, for all of the help and introducing the speaker. And we are looking forward to learn more about PySpark.
awesome. Looking forward to sharing some stuff with you as well. Let me just share my screen here.
Good luck, Natalia.
Thank you. Okay, you see slides, right? Okay, cool. Just 1 second. Yes, we're good. Guys, if you notice something weird with the connection or something like that, just please let us know and we'll fix it as soon as possible. But let's get started. First of all, I would like to say that I'm very happy to be here once again, because I actually did this presentation, I think 2 years ago with PyLadies Amsterdam. And just did a few updates here and there. But I'm super happy to be here again, especially sharing what I know with the ladies. And it makes me extra happy to see that the community is growing. And let's get started. So next slide. Okay. In order to do this small introduction before we jump into the exercises, I actually split this presentation into 7 questions, and they happen to start with W or have W in them. But basically, I want to give you an overview of what Spark is, why is it relevant for us, and hopefully by the end of this, we go from, I have no idea what it is, don't know, I'm super happy today. First, and hopefully the easiest question, who am I? Hi, I'm Natalia Pipas. I am a data engineer at bowl.com. Some of you might know the web shop. And I currently work with Kotlin and Python. So maybe in the future, I'll do some introduction of Beam or something like that, because it is something I'm learning more about at the moment. But there's still some work happening with Python and Airflow. It's some technologies that I really like to work with. And I am a big fan of soccer and taking naps. And this is all you need to know about me right now. And our next question, why are we here, right? What am I going to learn? Why is this even relevant? Let's find out. Well, we're here because we have a challenge. And the last time I did this workshop, I was actually talking about how big data was everywhere in sensors on Facebook, industry. And this time I actually want to give a more concrete example with this. This is actually where I work. It's a web shop, and for most people, their website looks like this. But for my team, it actually looks a bit more like this, where many or most of the items you see become events that we track, and we can actually do a lot with this information, like doing better recommendations For example, I was actually looking for skateboards a few days ago, so now I see these recommendations on the website. You can do some better marketing, like which ads people see, of course, with proper consent. But this is something you can do with the data. You can also do some fraud detection when you track user interactions. And it turns out it's a lot of data that we work with every day. So we actually get events for every, or like most item people view, or that just gets rendered. And we also have a lot of bot traffic, maybe because people are scraping for prices or doing God knows what, scraping the website. We end up receiving a huge amount of events. And I actually did the count from 2 days ago. We actually processed like more than 2 billion events, which turns out is a lot. And maybe you see this data and you think, oh, I'm just going to process it on my one computer. And if it's not enough, I'll just get a bigger computer and, I don't know, a better computer later, until you realize that's not really enough, not really how you solve a scalability problem. So what people actually started thinking was, okay, what if I have many computers to help with my data processing? So when we talk about that, we actually start talking about parallel data processing. And this is a bit of the motivation to study Spark, but I'm going to get there. So when we talk about parallel processing, there are some concepts that are important. For example, communication efficiency. Like if you're processing data in parallel, these nodes should communicate very well and very fast, right? When you talk about monitoring, that's super relevant if you have a network of computers processing your data. Like you might be interested in knowing CPU usages, latency. You might want to talk about task distribution, like which tasks do I assign to which workers. Very quickly, the discussion grows, and it would be great if we could abstract some of this complexity and just focus on the logic of our work, right? So what I'm bringing here today is actually one of the biggest solutions for parallel data processing. It's not the one we use at work right now, but I've used it in previous jobs. It's one of the main solutions in the market for this kind of problem. It's called Spark. I am going to focus on PySpark specifically today. But yeah, let's see what it's about. So when we talk about processing data, we expect to process things in one machine, but actually what's happening is we have a group of computers processing the data. So our goal is to think we're processing one computer, but actually in multiple. And how do we achieve that? Well, I think Spark's gonna help us with that. But first, I would like to know, do you have questions? Are we good so far? Oh, I see people saying hello, so hello.
I think so far we are good. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let's move on then. Okay, so going a bit more into detail, what is Spark? Well, it's a data processing engine. It's part of the Apache ecosystem, and it's responsible for making these concepts, these complex concepts, more abstract. And you can develop in Spark using different APIs. Like if you want to write it in Scala, Java, R, or Python, it's possible. Of course, today we're going to focus on Python. Yeah, there are a few things that I think are important for this workshop that I wanted to share before we actually get started getting our hands dirty. So yeah, get your notepad or just look at the slides. It's not a lot. You'll be fine. The first thing is, I know I shared a screenshot with nodes talking to each other, But actually the Spark setup looks a bit more like this, where you have like a main or a master node talking to different workers and assigning, talking to different workers and assigning tasks. And if I wanted to be very specific, I would show you this slide instead, but I don't think we need that level of detail right now. So I'm just gonna pretend this one doesn't exist. And yeah, I just wanted you guys to be aware of the possibilities you have with Spark. Like you can do data transformations with Spark SQL, but you can also work with streaming. You can do machine learning. You can have graph calculations. You have the different APIs, but that's a lot, right? So today, for the 2 hours that we have, we're gonna focus on the Spark SQL and the Python API. And for the sake of this presentation, nothing else exists, right? Okay, so I'm gonna use the core API. What do I need to know before I start? First thing I think is important is there are two ways of thinking about our data. So in the beginning of Spark, people would use this set called RDD, and it was non-structured. So there was no schema being enforced in the data. So there was a lot of freedom, but honestly a bit of chaos when we used RDDs. So they actually moved towards, I would say, a simpler, best performing structure called a DataFrame. What is that? It's just something to hold your data with a schema. It's nothing fancy. But if you look at the history, we started talking about RDDs and then moved on to data frames. So for today, we're only going to focus on data frames. And when I talk about it, it's your data. Another thing that I think is relevant is operations. And in Spark, we have two types. And yeah, I think I'm going to start with some examples to explain why they're different. Let's say we have a data frame, a set of data, and we want to only look at a few rows. So we call a transformation called filter. Or we only want to look at a few columns, then we use a select. Yeah, and the same applies to like grouping data, aggregating it. These are all changes in the logical definition of our data frame. But when we use them, we don't actually have data being processed. We actually have data being processed when we use these things called actions. Like I want to write my data frame to a table, or I want to write my data frame into a file, or I want to run a count. That's when the action happens. Transformations, they're there, they are an idea, but the processing is lazy. It only happens when we have an action. Okay, so when do we start? I did right now, but first I want to know if you have questions before we start the exercises. Let's see the channel. I see that the presentation is quite delayed on YouTube, so I'll give you guys some time to write something. And if there are no questions, I'll just move on to the exercises. I don't know if you guys have the link, but there's instructions on how to get started on the GitHub repo. And of course, if you get stuck or you just need some help, you can, and please do ask on the comments. I'm just gonna go to the repo. So yeah, if you check the README, you see that there's a setup section, and I actually created 3 options because I remember the last time we had this workshop, the first option wasn't available at the time, so we went to a second one. And this time I was like, I think we need a third option. Let's allow people to also have a local setup. So yeah, if you have, especially a Mac, because I don't think these commands will be good for Windows, you can also run the same notebook we're gonna run. You can have it locally. But I encourage people to use Databricks. It's the one I'm gonna use. It already has a cluster set up for you. And there are instructions on how to create your account if you don't have one already. So yeah, feel free to choose your favorite setup so we can get started. Oh, I already have an account, so I'm just gonna show you how to import the notebook in case that helps. So you can actually click on the link on the README. That's gonna take you to the notebook. You can hit import notebook, copy the link, and then from your Databricks account, they actually have this workspace. And then there's this little option here where you can import the notebook. And you can see that I've tried a few times because I have 012 there. And okay, there's a little trick to start running a cell that's control return or enter. And you notice that actually starts a cluster for you. I think on Databricks, the cluster actually only has one node, but that should be enough for us to learn how to use Spark. But of course, if you're in a production environment, you're gonna want some more, some more nodes. I'll give you guys some time to do the setup. And if you have questions, please let us know. I'm here, Alexandra is here. We're all here to help you. And please let me know if you can get started as well.
I have a question actually, Natalia. Why did you choose Databricks? I guess there are other platforms, are there? Like, what is advantages, disadvantages? Why would you recommend it, basically?
No, this is a great question, actually. Also because the last time I did this workshop, I actually chose Zapple as my favorite platform to Spark. But in the end, it doesn't matter a lot if you're just trying to learn the language. Databricks has some interesting features. For example, if you're looking at the data, you can choose to change the way you visualize it. I believe it's at the end of the notebook that we have that we play with some visualizations. I'm not sure I will be able to find it here now, but we'll get there. If you, for example, if you only go with the local approach, then you don't have this display function. It's very small reasons that I chose. Feel free to pick your favorite. I do have some previous experience with Databricks as well. On my previous job, we used it for simplicity and also, I guess, for cost reasons. It was the preferred choice, but feel free to do your own investigation. Today, the goal is more to learn how Spark works and less how to choose the tool. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. One thing that I noticed is that my cluster started, so I can see the green dot here. And what I do with this first cell is just read a file. Oh, I didn't load this file. If you're doing the setup, this is actually a step that we need to go through. I'm gonna go together, but yeah, the idea here was, okay, let's load a file that we just uploaded. Yeah, load that into a data frame and call it the sales data frame. And then I actually want to see what data is in there. But before we can actually see the data, we need to have the data. So here there's data, and then you can say create table, and then you can upload a file. So yeah, you can just go to the path where you have clone the repo. There's a file called sales records. I think the instructions on the README are a bit more detailed, but in the end, you want to upload this file here. And then you don't even need to create a table with UI or create a table in Notebook. Once you've uploaded the file, you're good to go. You can go back to the Notebook. I see a question here about equivalent technologies among cloud providers. I'm going to share the ones I know. I have worked with Databricks. I have done some experiments with Zapple, like I already mentioned. But if you want to run Spark jobs, I know the Google Cloud Platform has a solution for it. Yeah, you can run Spark jobs on Dataproc on the Google Cloud Platform. On Amazon, there's also a solution for that. I think it's called EMR. I haven't used that one yet, but there's a lot of different setups you can have, and they all have pros and cons. I believe for simplicity, if you have less experienced users, a platform like Databricks or Zapple would be better, but there's a lot of variables. I don't want to recommend a tool or another. Yeah, that was the question we got so far. Guys, I'm curious, how is the setup going? Is it simple to get it to work? Is anyone struggling? So far, good. Awesome, Camila. Thank you so much for participating. Okay, so I actually introduced a little problem in our data frame on purpose. Like if you see, I only use the default options for reading a CSV here, right? So I didn't tell Spark if my file had a header, what was the separator. I just got all the default values. And in the end, we got this C0, C1, Cn columns. And that's not really what we want. We want the columns to have the right names. And here they actually became a row. That's not really what we were looking for. So in order to fix it, I actually used some of the read options that are available by default. You can say if the file had a header or which separator it has. So what I did here in the second cell was actually the same thing as before with some additional options. And as you can see, it already fixes the previous issue of not having the right column names. And I believe in Databricks, yeah, you can sort, play a little bit with the data, but what I wanted to show was just the read options. Before I move on, are we good with this setup, guys? I remember last time we did it, the setup took a bit of time, so I really want to give you guys some time to do the exercises together with me. So yeah, we can have the questions and progress together. So I will talk very slowly to give you some time. Okay, Mo is also set up. So I will talk a little bit about schema. Yeah, we have these concepts that are good for introduction. Like if you're not familiar with schema in Spark, or at least the data types, It's basically a map between column names and a data type. Since I didn't specify any schema when I loaded my file, this is what happened. Like I got column names and then a default data type, which would be string in Spark. And as you can imagine, that's not always the type that we want to work with, right? For performance reasons or because you want to do calculations with your numbers. Let's say I want to work with my unit price, do some calculations there. I wanted to have a number type. So at some point we'll try to fix that. But for now, it's just good to understand that we have the schema option, and it can be checked with this syntax here, dataframe.dtypes. And another concept that I wanted to introduce was the select. And since there are no new questions, the select is basically telling Spark, hey, I want to only work with this group of columns. So let's say I have my data frame, I call select and give it a list, or in this case, 2 parameters with the column names. Then the result is going to be this that we have here, just a data frame with 2 columns. And one thing that I do want you to notice is that I'm assigning it to a different variable here. I'm not just saying sales data frames equals sales data frames.select, because I want to keep this information here to do something different in the future. So if I did something like this before, then I would lose all the rest of the information, and I really don't want that. So yeah, the select is quite simple. I hope you guys get it already. If not, question in the channel. So the next thing is actually a little bit of a warm-up. So I would like you guys to create a data frame that only shows order ID and order date and display it on Databricks or whichever option you chose. And yeah, just to make sure we're familiar with the syntax, and then we'll move on a little bit. Sounds good? I think the stream is delayed for like 30 seconds, so I get to watch myself a little bit. Yeah, guys, please let me know how it's going. Otherwise, I'm just talking to a screen, and that's a little bit lonely. And yeah, if you're done, please let me know as well, so we go to the select expression. Oh, another thing I didn't mention, I try to leave a link to the documentation on each cell that has like a relevant concept. So if you're curious about what else you can do with that function, you can check on the documentation. Here I'm gonna focus on the basics so we can yeah, learn a little bit faster. But if you're curious, please check out the documentation or ask on the chat. We'll go through it. Another option that's very similar to the select is the select expression. And it's similar to the select, but not really, because it actually gives us a bit more power to, for example, apply expressions into our columns. So let's say I want to append something to each row value, like I did in this data frame here. So with this cell, it sounds a bit stupid, but it's to prove a concept. I am concatenating the item type name with a oh wow, and then I have my impress data frame. So what the select expression is doing is basically for each row, it's doing something, and then you decide what it does. If it's concatenating something, if it's multiplying a value, you can do a lot. And the documentation, I think, if I remember correctly, it has the list of expressions you can apply. So far, everyone with me? Oh, there's a question. Do I run all above? Yes. So this is actually a very important one. The cell, it needs to be executed for the whole flow to work. So let's say you don't execute each one of them, then you might get an error in the future because some transformation wasn't applied. So what I was doing was like running them individually. Like I click on the cell, the cell, do a control return to run it. Like here, I don't think I actually ran my cell, so thanks for reminding me. But yeah, you can also do like run all from above. So it's gonna go to the first cell and just rerun everything. So yeah, just to make sure everything is running as expected here, I'm gonna run my cells individually, but it should be okay. And as you can see, when we run them for the cells that have actions, you see a little Spark jobs and then a progress bar. This is because display, for example, is an action, so you actually did some computation. Of course, our data set is very small, so it's fast. For bigger computations, you actually see the progress, and then if you're curious, you can see some more details on the execution. And that's quite easy to do on Databricks as well. So I hope that answers the question about run all above.
There's another question regarding the failed to create cluster.
Oh, I've actually had this one yesterday, and that was because I had two tabs, two notebooks, and then the limit for the free edition is only one cluster or one node. So can you please check if you have multiple tabs open or multiple notebooks running? Worst case scenario, I guess you can detach the cluster and restart. But since you reached the limit, I guess you got the free version as well. So yeah, let me know if it doesn't work. We'll think of something else. Cool. In the meantime, I wanted to talk a little bit about casting as well, which is one of the things you can do with the select expression. So as I mentioned before, we can give multiple parameters to the select expression, one for each column or expression that you want to see in your data frame. So here what I did was select a few columns that I want nothing to happen to them, and for some that I wanted to cast as a date, for example, then I specify it on the string. So for example, the order date, this is how you cast it in Spark SQL. For some numbers, I actually chose, to cast like units sold as integers, price is double, just so we can better work with our data. But feel free to try different things. And I do want to highlight that here I'm actually overriding the variable because I want my sales data frame to actually hold the correct types now. So you can see that now we have different types here, other than string. And I think this will be better for us moving forward. I'm curious about Camila's setup. Did it work? Because yeah, like as you can see, I've created a few clusters like before, and if there is any issue, I think it should be fine to either detach the cluster, so not turn it off, just detach your notebook, or just restart the cluster. And as I open here, you can see that it tells you about like memory, number of cores. I believe this is a Databricks version, and also the Spark version. Don't know why it says Scala here, but I guess it's also part of the cluster installation. Okay. The next thing we had was the actual first exercise, which was to build and display a data frame with unit price in cents instead of euros. So like 1 euro is 100 cents. Let's just play a little bit with that, see if we can have a slightly different data frame with cents instead of euros. My cluster doesn't seem to start. I'll try again. Okay. If it doesn't work, it might be a good idea to try either the Zapple or the local approach. I tried the Databricks yesterday and it was a bit shaky. So maybe it's happening now as well. But yeah, restarting should be okay. If it's not, we have some extra options to help.
For me, it did take like 5 minutes to start the cluster.
Yes, this is something that can happen as well. Like because first you make sure the cluster is ready, so like Spark is installed, all the dependencies are installed, and once it's up and running, the operations should be faster, but it takes time to warm up. And I noticed that in Zapple, it actually speeds up the cluster a lot faster. So maybe if you have a similar problem, the Zapple approach can be helpful. Okay, so I'll give you guys I don't know, a couple of minutes to do the exercise one, or I don't know, a few more minutes. And yeah, if you have a solution, please share. If for some reason you got stuck and you don't want to ask a question, there is a file with all the solutions on the repo as well. I didn't want to tell you guys about that because I do want to see the questions, but in the repo you do have a solutions folder with all the answers to all the exercises. Also for later, like if the workshop's over and you want to finalize the exercises, the solutions are here.
Yeah, we have a question about where can I find the CSV file, the one that you uploaded?
Okay, cool. So also in the repo, yeah, I cloned it, but I think I can show it from here. There's the workshop folder, and then there's the sales records file. So if you clone it, it should be available to be imported. Is that Yeah, and I think it's also interesting to mention that loading a local file is not like the standard way of working with data. Of course, if you're in a production environment, you're either going to read from a database or from a distributed file system like S3 or Google Cloud Storage. There's a bunch of compatible data sources to use, but for our exercise, we have this local file that we upload. But Spark will be compatible with most traditional or common data sources. Can we clone it directly into Databricks? I don't think we can clone it directly. If I uploaded it to S3, I think I could give you guys a reference that we could put here, but then I would need to create like a public bucket on S3, and I didn't do that. So we actually need to go here like to data and then upload the file so we can have this reference here. For those who don't know, dbfs is short for like Databricks file system. I think it's built on top of S3, Amazon S3, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's basically their own file system. It's distributed, so it's designed to work, designed for parallel processing. Okay. Everything working out awesome, Camila. You just made me very happy. Let me see where I was. So regarding the exercise 1, all good there? If there are any questions, please ask. I'll come back to it. For now, I do want to skip the extra exercises like 1.1 because I want to have the time to cover everything. But if you've done that and you have questions, please also ask. But for now, I'm gonna go straight away to filter. And filter is basically what you expect it to do, I think. Let's say you have your data frame, you only want to see rows where a specific condition is met. For example, I want to see events from country equals Libya. And yeah, you just need to specify it like this. So here, all these events that you see, I believe all these sales that you see are from Libya. And they seem to like offline channels a lot. And that brings us to exercise number 2, where we want to build and show a data frame with orders where the unit cost is 50% or less than the unit price. So I hope the text is clear, but the idea is if the unit cost is 50% or less than the unit price, then filter should show me this row. Otherwise, it should be left out of the data frame. And let me see. Remember that generated data frames can be assigned to variables and transformations can be chained. Okay, so let's say I want to have 2 filters. I could say country equals Libya and I don't know, order priority equals M, whatever M means. Then I could do this syntax with the and, but also it would be a perfectly valid choice to just chain another transformation, like filter order priority equals M. That would be fine as well. So yeah, I think it's important to highlight that we can chain these transformations. Remember that I mentioned that you're changing the logical definition of your data frame when you use a transformation. Yes, you can keep changing it until you have an action or until your script is finished. If I wanted, I could also say something like, okay, after these filters, I want to select, I don't know, the column country. And I would only get the filtered plus the selected data frame. I guess that's not the goal, so I'm going to leave these out for now. I'm not sure if I ran the previous cells. I keep forgetting it. Let's see. Okay, this one should be enough. So far, all good with exercise number 2. I was actually trying to do the exercise as well to see if I remembered. I guess I'll do this one. So what we want to do is get our sales data frame. And since this challenge is just about filtering out some roles, I'm going to use the filter. And yeah, I guess this is my expression. Unit cost times 2, slower than the price. I'm very happy that I ran this one, because when we had the workshop, the Spark version was a different one, and this I didn't get this error back then. So what I had to do to fix it was actually set a Spark property that's on the repo. One sec. Yes. So I honestly don't remember which version of Spark we were using last time, but now for us to be able to parse the date as is, we actually need to set this configuration. Yeah. So maybe if someone shares that on the chat, that would be very nice. But it's basically a little fix that we have to do for this to work. And it does give me the opportunity to explain you a little bit about the configuration. So as you can imagine, we can configure a lot of things in Spark, like from timeouts to time parsing policies. And this is one of the ways you can set them. You can set them before submitting a job to Spark, but you can also set them afterwards like we did here. And then it's like property name and then the value that you want to use. So yeah, if you got the same error I did, please use that. How's it going with exercise 2 or one of the previous one? Is it going too fast, too slow? Please let me know so I can adjust. Awesome. Thank you, Alexander. And Hada, is it Hada? Ghana? I don't know how to say it. Okay, so I will just mention the exercise after this one. But yeah, I do want to go through the other concepts as well, so I will not spend a lot of time on this one. But the idea was to make use of the take function and the print function on Spark. And going through them very quickly, the take function is, I believe it's quite helpful for when you want to, for example, print some information and basically bring them to that main node that I mentioned. So if you, let's say you're writing your data into a file, you don't need the data that's processed by the nodes to be on the master one. You just have the workers write the results somewhere, right? But if you want to print them, or yeah, if you're doing like some local analysis, then it becomes a bit more relevant to use a take or a collect function. The collect function just brings all the rows you have on the data frame to a single node, so you can, for example, create a list out of them if that's helpful. I definitely don't recommend that, because then you lose the thing that Spark is special about, the ability to parallelize the processing, but sometimes it makes sense to use this kind of function. And the difference between the collect and the take is that the take allows you to give the number of rows that you want to see. So let's say you want to print some random 5 rows of your data frame, then you would do like a take 5. It's especially nice if you're developing, not so much if you're, if you have a production job. And this is what this exercise is about. So just getting the low-cost data frame and doing a take and a print. How are you doing so far?
We have one question. If you do any changes to the notebook, is it auto-saved?
Oh, yeah, good question. So when you import the notebook, it's yours. It's your own copy. So go crazy with it. And if something goes wrong, you can always import it again. So you get another copy. I definitely encourage you to play with the functions and see what's available.
Yeah, and you also have the revision history. If you made any changes, you can actually look there.
That is true. Oh yeah, true. Here on the top right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another question, maybe we can take it now. Is there something similar to like head in pandas, like data frames?
The head is like the take, right? I haven't used pandas that much.
It's like giving you just the top 5 or how many rows you say, yes.
Yeah. So if you sort by something and do a take, I believe it will have the same effect as the top in pandas. But like I said, I don't use pandas that much, but I believe that's a similar function. Cool. Oh yeah, by the way, there's also documentation for Python in general on these cells, because I actually did this presentation at work, and most of them knew a lot about PHP, but not so much about Python. So I try to merge like introduction to Python and also introduction to PySpark. So you might encounter things that you already know, like for loops or functions, but it's here as well in case you're curious. We'll give just a bit more time for questions, and then we can talk about groupby. Yeah, maybe it's good to do this 2.1 very quickly here. To show how the take works. Yeah, here I don't think there's any sorting taken into consideration, so like it just got 5 random elements of the data frame. But I think if you do I don't remember if it's sort by or sort. Let's say unit price, unit cost. Then I think it gives you the top 5 ascending or descending. Is it like this? No. Okay, there is a parameter that you can pass to say if the sorting is ascending or descending, but I honestly don't remember. Yeah, so the idea for this exercise was also to do a for loop. So like for row and this guy, we would print the row. Since there are no other questions, I'll move on to the group by. And yeah, for those who have worked with SQL before, the group by in Spark does pretty much the same thing. It groups based on a certain key that you specify. So, for example, if you want to group your data frame on a sales channel to just be able to display the count of rows that you have with that specific key, or a max number of units sold, for example, you can use the group by and then an aggregation function afterwards. So this is what I did here. I wanted to show the max unit sold for each of the channels, online and offline. Turns out it's pretty close. And then there's a little exercise about group bys, but slightly different. So for the exercise, we actually want to see the average unit price per item type. And I don't know if we can already play with the visualization here, because it's not that helpful, but there are some different options here. Yeah, I guess if you're interested in some data science or business analysis, it starts to be a bit more relevant. But for this one specifically, I don't think there's a lot we can do about visualization. But it's just nice to know that it's there. Mary or Mahi is saying that that head also works in PySpark. So yeah, should be the same. It's another option for you. Yeah, so I'll give you guys some time to do the exercise 3, and I'm here if you have questions. And thanks again, Mary or Mahi, or some variation. Oh, okay. Camila is asking, where do I see the visualization options? If assuming you're using Databricks, because I think that's the only one that has this option out of the box. It's below the table that you had. There's this little button here, and then you can choose what type of visualization you want. And the interesting thing is that I don't actually know how to go back to the table. So if someone knows,
you just click the exactly.
Yeah. Thanks. It's been a while. And for each cell, you can also download your data if you want to, I don't know, export it in Excel or somewhere else. It's also available. And once again, here there's a link to the documentation. Oh no, I closed my notebook. But the idea with the documentation was that you can see which functions are available, which aggregation functions are available. As you can see, there's a lot. But here I think we'll focus on the main ones like max or count, average. And now I need to log in again. Oh no. Let's see if I need to execute the cells again. Oh, should be okay. Do you hear the police sounds, by the way? It's quite noisy here in Brazil. Maybe it's not available in the student version. Yeah, maybe that's the case. I am actually using it's not the pro version, it's the community edition. And this one has the visualization options. And I think it's available for everyone. So if you got a different version, maybe try out the community. Of course, it has some limitations like the number of nodes, memory, etc. But for like smaller data explorations, it should be good enough.
Yeah, and it's only available once you have used the display function.
Yeah.
Also, as well, like in this cell, you don't have it. So
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, the display one is not available like by default for Spark. It is something that the Databricks guys introduced. I personally find it very helpful, but it's not like a Spark specific. How's it going with exercise 3, guys? Ah, okay, it was the display thing. Nice. Okay, I think while we do the exercise 3, I'm gonna play a little bit with 3.3. Yeah, so we can work on it together if you're done. So we're supposed to get the output data frames from exercise 1 and 3. And I actually need to remember these exercises because I wrote them like 2 years ago. And then print the count. Okay. Create a list. Okay, I guess so. We should use collect here. But then it's not a data frame anymore. I guess I need to run that cell again. I didn't do exercise 3, that's why. Does anyone have the answer to exercise 3 that I can paste here? Yeah, like I said, using this collect operation is not ideal. But since the exercise was asking me to create a list, I think it was a list like this. I think I overcomplicated the problem. Yeah, it was just to practice Python lists. So let's go back. I didn't do the exercise one, but the idea here, yeah, was to just make a list of the data frames, and then for each one of them, do a count. And then the count in Spark is an action that can be performed in parallel. So yeah, no need to use collect or anything like that. We can just do a count. Okay, I see some solutions here. Okay, I even see some new functions being used, like with column renamed. And yeah, that this is another option. Like if you want an expression and then to assign a name to your column, you can use the with column renamed. I think I can copy and paste. But yeah, it's all available in the documentation. So yeah, there are many different solutions, and you can check out which one I chose on the solutions file on the repo. But otherwise, you can have your own, and that's perfectly fine. I did want to talk a little bit about temporary tables, and I think they're super interesting because they allow you to just use pure SQL with Spark, so no need to use functions or even knowing most of them exist. You can just use pure SQL, and for that, we just have our data frame, and then we call register temp table and give your table a name. In my case, I chose sales. So if you're using Databricks, and I think Zapple as well, we have this special tag like SQL, and then you just write normal SQL, and it's displayed like a data frame. And if you want to assign a SQL expression to a data frame, that's also possible. But that has a slightly different syntax. I'll show you in a little bit. You just have a look at the comments. Thank you, Moa, for joining us. And had one question. Did this solution that you had for the previous problem, did it work fine? It sounds to me that it should, but if you find any errors, please share as well so we also learn from it. But I was talking a little bit about the SQL options, and just to illustrate how we can assign the result of a query to a data frame, it would be a little bit like this. So we use the Spark tag here. I think it's PySpark. Oh, no, we don't need that. No, I think we do. Yeah, we just do Spark and then data frame. I think it's the Spark SQL, and then select star from sales. I think that's the syntax. PySpark, maybe?
No, you don't need to use anything. It will work. No. Just with the because you have like Python as default.
Yeah, true. Databricks already gives you the Spark options here. So thanks. And yeah, of course, you can do some different statements here if you want some specific columns, or if you want to apply an expression, you can play with the results and then display. As always. Cool. But if you just want to run a query, you can do the percentage SQL. That will be just fine. And to practice the SQL, we have this exercise here that says display the total number of units sold for each of the available item types. Present your output as a bar chart. Okay, so this is the place where we play with the visualizations. Yeah, I'm very curious about your guys' solution, as I also don't remember the solution for this one.
One question regarding the, so you have the option to just write pure SQL, and also you have the option to use this PySpark API. I mean, which one would you use in a, I don't know, like a normal working environment?
Okay. Yeah, I think the SQL is pretty helpful if you're like analyzing a data set or just trying to, I don't know, spot a problem in your data. It's like fast and gets the job done. But usually, what you see in like real processing jobs is just the pure Spark syntax being used. So for business analysts, I think they benefit more from these features on the notebooks. But for example, in data engineering, you're a lot more likely to just write your application using the Spark functions and using less of the notebook's benefits. But they're there. Like if it makes sense to you to use them, go for it.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I'll try to solve the exercise as well. Display the total number of units sold for each of the available item types. Okay, so we want to see a count of units sold in our source data. It's called sales, I think, for each of the available item types. So we want to group by item type. Let's see how it goes. Okay, we have an histogram here, but yeah, I guess this is what we're looking for already. So I'm curious, do you guys got to the same result? I don't think I got it right though. The total number of units sold.
I think you need the column that you're grouping by, the item type.
Yeah. It's very tricky to present when we try to solve a challenge. Yeah, so now we can see the item types and then the count for each item type. Does this look a bit more like the solution? Yeah, and of course you can play with the visualizations here. I guess this would also work with a pie chart.
According to the solution, I think units sold is like a number that you should sum up.
True. Okay, I'm never gonna try to solve exercises and present stuff again. Because I have some of units, so yeah. Yeah, I guess it's like that. Okay, that makes more sense, right? Yes. So I want to move on to the next one, but yeah, I want to hear from you guys. Like, did you get to the same outcome? Um, do you need a bit more time? How's it going? And by the way, Alexa, thank you for this super helpful participation, like helping people in the chat. It's awesome.
It seemed they're masters SQL, so no questions.
All right, let's move on then. Okay. In order to combine some of the stuff we learned, I made a few bonus challenges, and yeah, I wanted to go through them with you guys. So yeah, the first one is about solving exercise for using Spark data frames instead of SQL. So just to make sure we live this workshop today, like knowing how to use both and understanding when it's better to use one or another. I do think that like for writing tests and for like code readability, people tend to go to the Spark functions instead of SQL because as the complexity grows, you yeah, you probably don't want just a big SQL file. You want the functions so you can, yeah, read faster the code, understand it better, and it's probably a little bit easier for testing and maintainability. But here we're just gonna explore all the options so you can choose the best one for yourself. And yeah, if you have a solution, please share in the chat, or if you have a question, please do that as well. I think I did something wrong. My visualizations were empty. Camila, can you share the solution you had? Or, yeah, what you wrote, so I can try the same here and we see what's going on. It can, of course, be like just a cache thing or an issue on the Databricks side, but maybe it's something in the query that we can help with. And also, as Alexander said, if you check the table option, if that's empty, then the visualization's, of course, gonna be empty as well. So that's a good first check.
Yeah, and also I think, yeah, just if you can go to the cell where you created the sales temporary table, that also needs to be run before this.
That is true, yes.
Maybe that's the issue.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, a few things to check. First, if the table is empty. Second, if the temporary table was created. And also, sometimes we're writing things and playing with the data. Maybe the data frame got overwritten. So if you go back to where we actually assign data to the sales data frame and just run that one again, that should reset the stage.
I think the question was more for the exercise on the groupby, actually.
Okay.
I
can go back to that one then. So exercise 3, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, so if
no, actually, no. I think it was already done with only with PySpark functions. No, yeah.
Okay. I'm reading the chat a little bit, so I understand what's going on as well. I had the same as you, but maybe something above that cell that's wrong. Yeah, maybe it's the data then. So I don't know if you saw, but if you go back to the cell that has the casting, if you run that one again, that should reset the sales data frame. And then if if you register the temp table again and run the query, I would expect it to be fine. But yeah, maybe it's something else. But if you try these things first, we can check together. I see a solution here, unit split type, so group by item type. So yeah, that seems all right. Let's see how it goes. Okay. So sales, data frame, group by item type. So units. So yeah, that looks all right, right? He sells stuff in a very balanced way. I like it. There is one thing, Mary, that you might have done, which was to put a dot show at the end here. And that might be creating some issues. I don't even know the behavior if I run this. Yeah, so it shows, and then I think when you do that, the return value of show is probably null. Let me see. Yeah, it's not. So when we're assigning to a variable, we shouldn't have the show here, but actually after the assignment, so something like this. And by the way, guys, this show is just another way of displaying a data frame. And this one is available always when you use Spark. So yeah, if you're more old school, you can use show, or if you're on Databricks, you can use the display. Okay, but you already fixed it with the display, so that's awesome. Any other questions, guys? So, assuming there are no other questions, I want to talk a little bit about the next challenge, which is to create and display a data frame that adds a random number for each order's total profit. For fun, I guess, you want to increase your profit. And we do want to display the updated profit and in order ID, so these two columns. And for this challenge, there's no need to generate a new random number for each row. You can just add the same random number to all of them. Left a little tip here. You can use the select expression or the with column renamed. Or I think you can even use SQL. If you like, you can edit the string. So yeah, I'm curious about the different solutions you guys come up with. Let's see a third solution. We only show data frame. I think I get what you're saying now, Mary. When you use the display, then you see the visualization options. But when you use show, then it's pure text, so they don't show up. This is one of the reasons why I recommend going with display. So we also get like the download data and going back to table options. It's a bit richer. So I think I'm gonna solve this with SQL, and if one of you solves it with Spark functions, then we can combine and compare them. And again, as I have multiple threads going on in my head, I'm probably gonna mess it up, but we'll see. So we have a more profit data frame that we basically want to be the result of a query. Us is profit a column? Total profit. Okay. Call it adjusted profit. Yeah, so we also want to see the order ID in our results, so I can add it to the query. Yeah. So this is the first solution that came to mind, but I'm curious if A, you agree with this one, B, if you have a different idea, maybe using the Spark functions. I'm very curious about that. And one thing that it's important to notice here is that the number is always the same. In this case, at least. So I actually added 85 to all orders. But it's possible that on a different scenario, we actually want to add a different random number for some reason for each of the rows. And then a simple approach as this query wouldn't do the trick. We would actually need to use something like a user-defined function, a UDF, or just a different approach in general.
Yeah, we have one question. What is the F that added before the SQL statement?
Okay, yeah, this is a cool question. This is actually a Python feature for making formatting strings easier. So, of course, we can, let me open a new cell to show this. Where once you print something, of course, I can just use the quotes to print it. But if I have a variable, let's say my variable, and I want to, print a combination of this hello and my variable, I could do something like this, like concatenate the strings. But I could also use this F before and then just put my variable like this, and that should have the same effect. And there are other ways of formatting strings. I can show you some additional ones so you can choose your favorite. So let's say I don't use the F, I use like a normal string. I can still do like a format. Or I can use a named parameter here, like name, and then pass it like this. There are just a lot of ways of saying hello, Natalia, I guess. And personally, my favorite is this one with the F, because then it allows you to do some slightly more complex things like formatting with multiple variables, like this. I guess it's just more readable than the other options, but it's a personal thing. Hope that answers your query, your question. And I'll just wait a little bit to see if there are other solutions for this problem. Yeah, and indeed, I don't really like writing the dot format as well. I think I don't remember which Python version it was introduced exactly, but it's if you're using like 3.8, it's definitely available.
I think it's from Python 3 indeed. And one benefit I see of the punt format is dot format is if you want to repeat the variable, then maybe, right? I guess it's maybe easier one way or another when you want to reuse. But,
so when you say repeat, you mean like this? So format ABC?
Exactly. There should be one of those should be best when you want to repeat.
But then what should I do? Should I enter ABC again here?
I think then you maybe put like key value pairs and then you say then the key there's a way to do it.
Yeah, I guess if you do it like this, it should be fine.
How do we know now that it's right and it's not the
That is, let's do it.
It's right. It's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it's about a personal preference.
Yeah.
There are many options.
Yeah, we have like another question that they tried to, Verena tried to solve with PySpark functions. I posted like her answer in the chat here, Natalia, if you want to copy it.
It's super helpful, yes, because the messages are on a different laptop.
And then she says that when she's doing this, the result for the column more profit is null.
Okay, so let's paste this here. I guess you have the same I have here. Okay, let's see. So we have here. I see. There's I think this is being treated as a string. So we're selecting the order ID. This is fine. But then we want to actually put the number here. And I think this is being interpreted as a string. So I don't know if this is going to work, but let's see if we can actually use the same strategy as before with the formatting. Yeah. So Does that make sense? So before, since we had the quotes here, it was actually being interpreted as a string. We don't really want. So like, even if I use the, oh, interesting. Okay, so the fact that I'm putting a number here made it also work, but if I put a string, like the third random number, I think it breaks it. Yeah. So we actually need to make it a number. Even if it's a number with quotes, that doesn't seem to be relevant. So does this make sense? Awesome. I guess you solved it. And the next exercise is actually quite similar to this previous one, but it addresses the question, okay, what if what if I want to add different random numbers? Then what do I do? So yeah, let's give it a try. And I only managed to solve this with a user-defined function. That's why I put it in the solution. But the idea is that you define a function that will be used for each element in your select expression or whatever other function you choose to use, your mapping, your filter, it doesn't matter. You define a function, you use this syntax here, that you give your function a name, and then you can call it with Spark. Since I don't remember the syntax for this one, I'm definitely gonna need some help from you guys. I see there's a link to the documentation here, so maybe we have a look at it together. Yeah, okay. I think you can use the same syntax even though we're not working with pandas data frames, but we should be able to use a similar syntax. And yeah, but I'll give you guys some time first so we're on the same page. By the way, in the meantime, if there's something that's still not clear from other exercises, just shoot and we'll go through it. Yeah, I'm trying to go in a pace that fits everyone's schedule, but that doesn't always work. So yeah, just put a message on the channel if something can be explained again as well, something that wasn't clear, or if you have an idea for a different exercise. I don't know. And also, by the way, please don't go adding profit to your company's numbers. I don't think super happy later. Or they will, actually. I don't know.
We can better add the oh wow to all other products.
We get better at the what? Sorry?
There's another example that you added oh wow.
Oh, yes.
So maybe now I'll open bol.com and oh wow.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to shut down the connection.
Oh no.
Yeah, I guess this is a very optimistic notebook. I still can't find what's wrong with my empty visualizations because the table is there. I've been Googling it, but no luck yet. Okay, we can share screenshots on YouTube, so you have the data in the table. Can you share the statement that you have, Camila, so I can paste the same thing? And then if I see it here, then it's probably something on the Databricks side. But at least if it's something with the code, then we can adjust a little bit. So far, any solutions, any code that you want to share that maybe we can help a little bit with? Okay. I guess I will try to solve it together with you. And again, I will mess up, so please help me. But if I look at this documentation here, I see that we just define a function and then we reference. Probably this is the column that we're interested in. Let's see. So let's say I receive the profit and then I return a profit. First, let's do like a simple profit plus 1 just to check if it's working. And then we do a with column. Plus 1. And then since we have a sales DataFrame instead of just a DF, we put it here. And then I think we're working with total profit. Let's see what we get just from this this approach. Okay, I do see it's a bit, it's a lot of information right now, so I'm gonna try to restrict it to just a few columns like we did before. So I'm really only interested in, let's say, the total profit, this plus 1 column that I just created, and I don't know, the order ID, for example. Okay, so this solution is not adding a random number to the profit, but I think it helps us a little bit understand the UDF and how it's used together with the other Spark functions. I don't think I talked about this with column function before, but it's similar to the select expression in the sense that you can apply an expression to a column, but different in the sense that you're adding that to your data frame and not selecting just that. So I'm gonna leave this this partial solution here for now to see, if you guys help me finalize it, adding the random number this time. And I'll see if we have some new comments. For bonus challenge 2, for example, I just copied your solution. Okay, so Did you try refreshing the page, Camila? Because it really might just be something from Databricks, like a cache thing, or maybe your browser is not compatible with the visualization. Trying to think of reasons for you to not see it.
I think for me, I imported the data, the CSV file, and I think you did it differently. You created a table from the CSV file, right? And I think that's the difference.
I actually just uploaded the file, and then I see that you have like two buttons: create with UI, create table with UI, create table on notebook. But I didn't select any of them, so I really just uploaded the file, and then.
I think maybe that's the difference that you did. Because I also, my visualizations are also empty, and I think I'm gonna try now. I created a table.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's maybe what's the difference.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, please let us know if this solves the issue, so we can share with the rest. Because in theory, we should always be able to see the visualization. The data is the same. Challenge 2. Is anyone else having this issue for the people who are watching the workshop? Okay, I'll try that later. Awesome. Okay, regarding the random number here, yeah, I'm curious where you guys are with the solution. Maybe I can help with something. But basically, if you start from this one, it should just be about changing our custom function. Yes, it should rename it to +1. So let's say we define a second function that does a plus random.
We have a solution in the chat. I will just post it in this chat so you can have it.
Awesome, super helpful. So we have a return profit plus rent and 0, 100. Okay, let's give it a try. And then instead of using the +1, oh, we can even use both. Now, to make it a bit simpler, let's just do the plus random and then call that one. And when we select, we want to see the plus random. I wonder if we can see the number that was added, but then we could do like total profit minus or plus random minus total profit, and then we would have the number that was added. Yeah, if we want to play it with this challenge a little bit more, we could do like a with column, random number, and then an expression like plus random minus total profit. and then you break it. What did I do wrong? Can I not do this? For the people who remember the syntax of which column, with column, what am I missing here?
I think you might have to put them, between like each of them. There are two separate columns, and you put them within the call function, like that will work. But I don't know why this one is not working.
Yeah, I guess we need to use a different syntax. We could Google it, but we're very close to the last minutes, and I actually wanted to use some of them for like less questions, or if you want to say something. What do you think, Alexandra?
Yes, I think we should leave some challenges to the participants to solve themselves.
Yes.
But, I guess basically it's just checking the with column syntax, how you need to do that. That's the only thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, final challenge for you guys. For us, I think we'll stop here and have a look at the questions. There's nothing new, right? No.
No, not right now. So I think we can just give them 2 more minutes since we have this delay. But in the meantime, so please write any questions you have in the chat, and we will take them. And of course, I want to thank Natalia for this amazing workshop. I learned a lot. So really, really good job. Really liked the formatting. I was using it before, but I was not really sure what does it mean and what is the idea behind it. So that was really cool to find out.
Awesome. I'm super happy to join you guys once again. If you realize you missed the question, you can always shoot an email or something. And thank you so much for the invite. And yeah, do you wanna say something to finalize? I don't know.
Yeah, I just also want to thank Nancy again for PyLadies Amsterdam for helping us and setting up the recording. So this is a bit new format for us from PyLadies Stockholm, but I think it's really good. So I'm really happy that we managed to organize this. And PySpark is such an interesting topic and really used a lot. So I think it will be very useful for many of the participants. So thank you again.
Awesome.
Yes, Nancy, do you have any final words or want to say something?
Happy to help. I also learned a lot about PySpark. So thank you, Natalia, again. And happy to help PyLadies Stockholm. So thank you, everybody that watched today and that participated. Hope it was useful.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
We have one question. Maybe we can take it quick. Would you recommend any further readings regarding PySpark?
Yes. So I left a few links on the notebook with the documentation. They're always a nice go-to place. But yeah, there are. I think if you want to learn more about PySpark, a course would be the best way to go. I don't know, in like Coursera or what's the other one? Well, there are a few options available. If you Google like PySpark course, you're definitely gonna find some free and some good paid options as well. But if you're just if you just like reading documentations, there are a few links there. You choose.
Thank you. Yeah, great last questions. Always nice to have resources to learn more. Yeah, so thank you, everyone. I think we will stop here. It has been like 2 hours of learning, so I think it's like time for dinner. So thank you a lot.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice evening.